Your smartphone has algorithms that can imitate Studio Ghibli's artistic style, generate essays in Hemingway's voice, and soon power autonomous weapons designed by Silicon Valley startups. We surrendered our data willingly, marveling at the convenience. The algorithms consumed our artistic traditions, our coding practices, our learning processes, the cultural heritage of generations, and then transformed it into products. Creative expression itself has become an extractive industry with humans increasingly optional. 4 developments reported recently expose the machinery of this cultural extraction and its consequences for human creativity, agency, and meaning. Together, they show us a profound transformation in our relationship with technology, from tool to creator of human experience itself. On March 29th, Business Insider published Kate Notopoulos' article, Studio Ghibli has few legal options to stop OpenAI from totally ripping off its style. OpenAI's Ghiblifying feature allows users to transform any image into one mimicking the iconic aesthetic of Studio Ghibli films. Studio Ghibli spent decades perfecting their style, and OpenAI copied it faster than a college freshman plagiarizing a term paper. And despite representing decades of artistic development by master animators, this distinctive style has virtually no legal protection. Copyright law shields specific works but leaves artistic styles vulnerable to algorithmic appropriation. The legal system, built for a much earlier technological era, can't address this form of creative extraction. Now, that same day, The Guardian published Zoe Corbin's Move Fast, Kill Things, the tech startups trying to reinvent defense with Silicon Valley values. Because nothing says responsible innovation like teaching military drones to move fast and kill things. Venture capital-backed startups now apply the rapid innovation ethos of consumer technology to military systems. Companies like Anduril Industries and Shield AI develop autonomous surveillance systems and AI-driven defense solutions that turn warfare through accelerated development cycles. They transform it. They've accelerated the way we actually war. This same optimization algorithms that simulate artistic styles are now guiding weapons systems, collapsing the timeline between concept and deployment from decades to months. And on March 30th, Joseph Earp asked The Guardian, AI promises to free up time, but what if it spares us from learning, writing, painting, and exploring the world? Now, Earp questions the outsourcing of creative and exploratory activities to AI systems. While automation of mundane tasks bring genuine benefits, delegating creative processes to algorithms may actually deprive us of the growth, the fulfillment, and self-discovery that come with struggle and practice. Messing up, the efficiency gained might actually hollow out the very experience essential to human development and meaning. Now, 3 days earlier, TechCrunch published Julie Bort's Open Source Devs Are Fighting AI Crawlers with Cleverness and Vengeance. Open source developers are setting traps now for AI bots. It's like Home Alone, except instead of Macaulay Culkin, it's a guy named Dave with carpal tunnel syndrome. These developers are now waging guerrilla warfare against AI web-crawling bots that scrape their code repositories. These bots, they ignore established digital protocols, all while extracting data to train AI models. So, developers did what devs do, and they responded with ingenious countermeasures. Honeypots, tar pits, fake data injection, all to protect their freely shared work from corporate exploitation. The digital commons is now facing systemic enclosures by entities that take without reciprocating. And I think what we're witnessing here actually constitutes something I learned in school in my poli-sci degree. It's what economists call the tragedy of the commons, a concept that Garrett Hardin in 1968 first coined, but it's rooted in classical philosophical thought. Traditional examples actually involve farmers dealing with overgrazing of shared land or fishing fleets depleting ocean stocks. Each one of these actors is pursuing their own self-interest, homo economicus, self-interested, rational man. Now, they collectively, however, are destroying the very resource that sustains them all. Now, this situation wouldn't have come as a surprise to John Locke. John Locke's work on property rights, social contract theory, all provide a powerful lens for looking at our current predicament. In his second Treatise of Government, Locke actually argued that individuals have a natural right to the fruits of their labor. We acquire property rights by mixing our labor with the natural resources, exactly what artists do when developing distinctive styles, or what open source developers do when creating code. So for Locke, property rights come with responsibilities. We can probably appropriate from nature, but only if we leave enough and as good for others and avoid spoilage. Now, AI systems completely destroy these Lockean principles. They suck out value, they extract it all from our cultural commons without contributing any labor of their own, leaving neither enough nor as good for human creators. They transform limited appropriation into unlimited exploitation, creating a form of digital enclosure that privatizes collective resources without observing the moral limits that Locke considered essential to, actual legitimate property claims. Another one of my favorites, I don't know if I have him here, it's kicking around somewhere, Jean-Jacques Rousseau. He also distinguished between this concept of amour propre, competitive, status-seeking self-love, and amour de soi, natural, self-regard consistent with the good of others. The AI-driven cultural extraction exemplifies an amour de propre gone digital. Companies looking for competitive advantage through algorithmic appropriation without any consideration for the sustainability of the creative ecosystems that they exploit. Now, our cultural, creative, and intellectual works, they form a commons that's traditionally been accessible for humans for learning, for inspiration, and creative extension. When we write, when we paint, when we code, when we create anything, we draw from this collective heritage, while at the same time contributing back to it. This reciprocal relationship actually is what sustains the commons from generation to generation to generation. But AI systems, they fundamentally mess with this balance. They extract value at a crazy, unprecedented scale and speed without ever giving back, without contributing anything genuinely original in return. Studio Ghibli's artistic style represents thousands of hours of human creativity, of cultural context, and skilled labor. When OpenAI extracts this style algorithmically and offers it as a feature, it depletes the uniqueness and value of that very style without adding anything authentically new to our cultural reservoir. Now, similarly, when AI crawlers scrape open code repositories, they extract value created through collaborative human effort while violating the implicit social contract of the actual open source community. That access comes with respect for the established norms and an expectation of contribution. The implications of this tragedy, I think they go way beyond individual creators to society as a whole. Cultural homogenization essentially will become almost inevitable as these AI systems trained on existing works generate derivative content that floods our cultural spaces. The algorithmic preference for recognizable patterns is going to lead to a narrowing of creative expression rather than its expansion. Thomas Hobbes, who saw society as founded on a social contract to escape the war of all against all, would recognize our current situation as a technological reversion to this chaotic state. In the Leviathan, Hobbes argued that without governance structures to regulate competition for resources, for instance, human life becomes solitary, poor, nasty, brutish, and short. The AI appropriation of cultural resources creates a digital version of this Hobbesian nightmare, unregulated extraction that threatens the very foundations of creative sustainability. For business leaders and investors, this transformation shows us a bunch of opportunities and also a bunch of existential challenges. The sustainable economics of content creation face disruption when AI systems can generate unlimited variations on existing styles at almost no marginal cost. Companies building business models on AI-generated content need to confront the limits that classical philosophers would place on property rights. Limits based on labor, consent, and the avoidance of, things like resource depletion. Technology experts face equally profound questions about their role in this transformation. How can technological systems actually honor the social contract principles articulated by Locke and Rousseau? Technical mechanisms for attribution, for compensation, and consent in AI training represent practical expressions of respect for creator labor and the consent of participants in creative communities. The application of Silicon Valley's innovation model to defense technology also raises additional questions about social contract theory. When autonomous systems replace human decision-making, especially in context of violence, I think they potentially may violate the Hobbesian promise, the Hobbesian premise even, that security comes through collective agreement rather than technological supremacy. I think what's even more concerning, probably is even the most concerning, is that the fact that we face the prospect of cultural stagnation. AI systems are great at mimicry and recombination, but they can't really genuinely innovate because they lack our lived experience. They lack our cultural context, our authentic perspective. If human creativity diminishes due to economic devaluation or displacement, the commons itself could cease to renew and evolve. Unlike physical commons, our cultural commons doesn't simply disappear when overexploited, it transforms. I think the tragedy lies in this transformation from a diverse, evolving, human-centered collection of works into an algorithmically processed, increasingly homogenized resource that's hyper-optimized for machine consumption rather than human flourishing. And all this is basically constituting a fundamental shift in our relationship with culture itself. Throughout history, human culture has evolved through individual creativity in dialogue with our collective heritage. AI extraction mechanisms threaten to short-circuit this process. They replace dialogue with algorithmic processing and genuine innovation with statistical recombination. The challenge I think that we face here involves establishing new governance structures for our cultural commons, mechanisms that preserve the value of human creativity while acknowledging the real, present, persistent nature of technological change. This might include legal frameworks that recognize stylistic innovations, economic models that ensure fair compensation for creators whose work trains these very AI systems, and technical standards that respect the boundaries and norms of creative communities. All it says is that we need to evolve our systems, our cultures, along with technology, and not let technology evolve it for us. For Nasty, Brutish, and Short, I'm Michael Cuenca. Locke's labor theory of property and Rousseau's social contract never really envisaged algorithms that could appropriate a lifetime's creative work in milliseconds. Couldn't foresee machines that take everything and contribute nothing in return. The corporate entities that are deploying these systems are constructing a sort of one-way mirror. They see everything we create while giving nothing authentic back. I think we're witnessing nothing less than the algorithmic enclosure of the Creative Commons. The machines aren't rising up against us. They're simply consuming what makes us human, one artistic style, one code base, and one cultural tradition at a time. See you next week.